Right, how are we doing, everybody, and welcome to Russell Heritage Golf. Today I'm going to be talking about, personally really, I'm going to hit a few shots and talk to you about how I would create a pressure load in the hips. The main reason for this video is that over the last kind of few videos that I've put out there, and for the few videos over kind of predominantly of next week as well, I'm talking very much about the hips in the golf swing, and I'm talking about how to create a rotation, how to create a sense of pressure, how to open the hips at the start of the downswing, going to progress to impact, then we're going to take a look at some of the golfing greats, and we're going to kind of just spend some time talking about the hips. Now, what I've kind of been talking about recently is I was talking in the backswing about trying to create a rotational movement, but you have to create a pressure load underneath the right foot because basically it immobilizes that side and it means I can open up this side. As I open up this side, I'm creating space and then I can get through. Now, people that have been kind of following the channel, and I don't always hit balls when I'm doing a lot of the video content. I normally spend more of my time talking about what you need to do. But today, as I hit some shots, and for people that have been watching the channel on the videos where I do hit shots, notice that I kind of create a shift in towards my right-hand side as I trigger a rotation. And that's basically what I'm going to be talking about today. What's also really important to understand is that this is what I do, doesn't necessarily mean you have to do it. And as we'll look on the channel in the future, there's also lots of different ways that you can load in towards the backswing position without doing what I'm demonstrating today. So what I try to be careful on the channel is I don't like to talk too much about a particular method, meaning that there are numerous ways of being able to achieve a repeatable golf swing. But today, because we're looking at my swing, you know, that's basically what's going to happen. Now, like I say, what I would do is I'd get myself set up, right? My first trigger is as I go back, I start to just shift pressure in towards this right-hand side. I'm not sliding and swaying around excessively, right? But my right thigh's going out, my left thigh will come in ever so slightly. By then, I've started to take the club away. I would then be triggering a rotation, and then as I swing up towards the top of my backswing, I am getting the feeling of pulling my right hip back. And as I'm doing this now, I can feel a huge amount of force is created underneath this side. I can feel activation in the hip and the pelvis itself. And that means from there, I feel like I'm free to shift the weight onto the left-hand side as I start the downswing. And this is what helps me feel like I'm storing up energy, okay, which I feel like then I can really open myself up. And that's the really big thing with my game, because as I've talked about before, you know, your priority is to keep the club face stable through the hitting area. But as a lot of people have kind of noticed, I do have a kind of, you know, rolling release as I go through the hip, because that's just something I've ingrained over the years and feels very natural to me. But what's really important is that, for example, if I kind of got a little bit stuck and started to extend, and then I have this kind of rolling release going on, and let's say I'm not moving my hips correctly, then it will just start to kind of draw a little bit too much for my liking. So the feeling is, as I start swinging back, I'm going to shift, turn, and then from there I can just rotate out the way. And as I just kind of keep hitting a few shots today, so you guys can see it, and I'll put a couple of slow-mos that will pop up on the video as well. But I'm basically shifting, turning, and then moving out the way. And I suppose this is a common thing that we see with a couple of pros, right? So off the top of my head that I'm aware of, I know that you've got the likes of Alex Noren and Henrik Stenson that move very much in the same sort of way, you know, so they keep themselves very centered on the upper body and kind of almost get this feeling of shifting the lower. And I did a video probably back in, I can't remember, summer, autumn time, where I talked about how to pure your irons. And I talked about the idea of the feeling, right? And this was a feeling of looking at the front of the ball and getting a feeling that your first move, you can just shift and then turn. And I suppose really that was a video in terms of how it felt very personally to me. And I suppose really I'm kind of going back to that a little bit today in terms of this feeling of keeping my upper body centered, shift, turn, and then from there I can just get out the way and start hitting the ball. And that's what works well for me. Like I say, as I keep talking on the channel, there's numerous ways in which you can create a load in towards that trail side. And what I've been talking about recently is the importance of creating a load in that trail side. And that basically means that if I rotate and I can create pressure underneath that trail foot, it means that I don't have to create a slide. It means I don't have to create an early hip extension. It means I can rotate my body, get myself moving out of the way, and then I can kind of start to work on feeling like I'm nice and stable in that impact area, so I can get that club face pretty square most of the time. So yeah, you'll see a couple of slow-mos coming up as well, like I mentioned, and it's just an opportunity. Now, whilst I'm doing this, you know, it doesn't mean you have to. It doesn't mean you have to do it this way. And that's what I spend a bit of my time talking about on the channel. I don't want you all to go away and try and emulate what I do, but for those that keep asking about what's going on in my body, I'm shifting, then turning, which helps me create that load. And then from there, I feel like I'm using my hips, creating good pressure in the hip, turning internally into that side. And then from there, I can just get out of the way, up and through the golf ball itself. So hopefully that answers a few questions personally. Like I say, I'll go back now and start talking about other things on the channel. Other things, looking at some of the greats like I mentioned earlier and what they did, and there are differences out there, but what's important and what we've seen with all the greats is that they have really created a sense of load in that trail side to give you the chance to create that clearance at the start of the downswing. And if you can operate the hips correctly, then everything beyond that, or below that I should say, will respond correctly as well. So hopefully you enjoyed the video. Always appreciate a thumbs up. Remember, it's absolutely free to press that subscribe button, right? Press the little bell icon. Basically means you'll receive notifications every time a new video comes out. It means you won't miss any of the uploads, which are happening pretty much every other day on average. What's also absolutely free is to send the swings into the social media channels that I use. The links for those are in the description below. That's where people send the swings in. I offer like a little free annotation, 60 seconds to 90 seconds long, just offering you some tips and basically pointing you in the direction of which videos I think would benefit you most, so at least you're working on the right sort of stuff. Plenty of golfers taking advantage of that. And yeah, that's absolutely free as well. And that's pretty much it, you know. Got to create the load, as I'm going to keep talking about on the channel. A couple of ways in which you can do this, but that's the important thing. That's the way that I do it, that I've always done it, because it helps me feel like I'm really storing on this side. Hopefully you enjoyed it. I'll catch up with you guys soon.